Namaste, I'm Catherine Austin, and welcome to Living Karma Yoga, a new TV show by Karma Yoga in Bloomfield Hills, which presents the best yoga has to offer to all of us on this living journey. Yoga means union of the soul and the body, and it's so much more than a physical practice. At my yoga studio, we offer classes all day, every day, where people come to restore, relax, and energize. And really what they begin to learn from the minute they step onto a yoga mat is that this is the perfect path for the journey of life to guide us to wholeness. This show brings you the best of the yoga world, from physical healing practices and postures to meditations, sacred chant music, travel, fashion, and more to support your radiance. Yoga is a journey just like life, and if you let it guide you, you'll get where you need to go. Join me on this journey, and thanks for tuning in. I'm so happy that we have two guests today. We have Lynn Meadow and Mindy Eisenberg with us for Healing Yoga. Lynn is an ERYT 500, and she's a compassionate teacher who supports individuals on their journeys to healing and wholeness. An experienced yoga teacher and yoga therapist, Lynn weaves therapeutics into group classes and private sessions. Lynn is also the owner of Yoga by Design, a pioneering approach to individualized teaching and therapeutics that earned her a reputation for being the go-to person when it comes to questions of healing. Lynn is also the founder of the Yoga by Design Foundation, which funds yoga programs for underserved populations. She's produced the DVD Yoga for Graceful Aging and appears in the book Like Stanzas in a Poem and also Yoga at the Wall. And our second guest, Mindy Eisenberg, MHSA ERYT 500, is a yoga therapist who thrives on seeing her students benefit from building a supportive community within her small group classes. Mindy's personalized and creative approach focuses on adapting yoga to each student so they can fully achieve an optimal state of peace and well-being. Mindy is passionate about working with individuals who have MS and other neurological limitations, spinal cord injury, cancer, and chronic pain. Her experience as a healthcare administrator helps her to work with professionals in health, healing, and wellness. So I'm so excited to welcome Lynn and Mindy here this morning for our show and this great discussion on healing yoga. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for asking.
We're honored.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to start with your beautiful credentials that are your bios, because many of our audience won't be familiar with these MHSA or ERYT 500. So I thought you could start giving us a little bit of your background and how you got to be where you are in the yoga world. Maybe Lynn, start with our ERYT.
Well, Mindy and I are both ERYT 500. The RYT is a registered yoga teacher. The E means experienced. We both did our advanced training at the Ananda Seva Mission in Santa Rosa, California, and have done extensive studies with many other teachers along the way as well.
And what does the MHSA stand for?
That is a Master's in Health Services Administration. So how that works is it was an easy transition into yoga therapy where we're working with other professionals, either nurses or doctors or different therapists. And it works so well because yoga therapy complements many of the other specialties out there. Mm-hmm. So as an administrator, I worked in the healthcare arena for several years.
Okay. So you've been teaching yoga for how long?
8 years.
8 years. And you've studied with a lot of different teachers along the way.
Right. So for yoga therapy, we really we choose which specialty area we go towards, and then we've kind of had to put it together because yoga therapy is in infancy. It's just growing now. We're starting to see majors in college for yoga, or even sometimes in the masters. But when we first began, we studied with one of the very first yoga therapy programs out there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So we are pioneers in our field.
That's so great. So who are some of the teachers that you studied with, Lynn, so far along the way?
One of the main teachers I've studied with is Doug Keller. That's through Do Yoga. And he is just a phenomenal teacher with a tremendous understanding and background in both yoga philosophy and especially the alignment and the adjustments that we need to make us feel more comfortable in our bodies. Because many times when we're experiencing pain in our foot, in our knee, a hip, or a shoulder, it's really from misalignment. And so it's repetitive stress. You do something incorrectly over and over again, you eventually are going to hurt yourself. It's like a rubber band. You pull, and eventually the rubber band will break. So what I have learned from Doug Keller is so much of what is the best optimal blueprint for one's body, how to assess one's body then for what muscles are too tight, what muscles may need to be strengthened, and to help people come back into balance.
I like that. So you've brought that into your private company, your Yoga by Design. And can you tell us a little bit about how Yoga by Design birthed? I was there at the beginning, so I remember. It's really been amazing to watch.
It really just evolved because it just seemed like I had this innate understanding of people's bodies, and I could just say, well, just shift a little bit here, do a little bit of this, and people started feeling better. So I started then doing private sessions to support people through their journey to feeling better. My philosophy is I like to support people in private sessions, but to move them out of the private work into group classes or back into whatever they do, because I work with many people who do not do yoga. It could be an athlete, it could be a couch potato, it could be somebody sitting at their desk all day, but so that they do not just rely on me. I believe yoga is empowerment. I want to share the information and have them take it over and make it theirs.
And I've noticed that you actually give them, after their session, like a go-to plan they go home with, right?
Right. Everybody goes home with a prescription, and, which they practice, and then they might come back 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Really depends on them. But I give them things to do every day, and I ask them also, how much time would you like to spend? So if they say, well, I have 5 minutes a day, then it's 5 minutes. If they say, I want a half an hour, then we design a half-an-hour program.
And it's really great that you send them home with kind of that, it's written down, so they know what to do and they can continue on their own. Because I know a lot of yoga students are afraid to practice on their own, that they feel they can't remember what to do, and you really give them great notes. I've seen that.
Yeah, they seem to be very appreciative, and if they have any questions, they can always be in touch with me between sessions via phone or email.
And how often do you see somebody privately for a therapeutic Yoga by Design session?
Again, it really depends on whether they've come in for a physical injury or there's somebody with a chronic condition, whether they have cancer or MS or something like that. Then it might be ongoing. I mean, there's some clients I see once a week or once a month for 5 years.
Oh, that's great.
But most people, the preference is that they take in the information and then they're able to take it on their life journey.
Okay, and you often have gotten students from the privates to go into the group classes, right?
Correct, when they're comfortable doing so.
That's great. So, Mindy, tell us a little bit more about your therapeutic training and how you might use that with privates or in group classes.
Right. So we were both fortunate to study with Matthew Sanford, who is an incredible Iyengar yoga instructor who has a spinal cord injury. He was injured when he was 13. Matthew teaches people who have a disability and many who don't have a disability. It's amazing to work with an instructor like that who can look at you and just know what's going on in your body. So he has a 2-level training, and we've done both of them. And also we've gone to the IYT, so there's an International Association for Yoga Therapists, and that's where we've met many yoga therapists with different expertise. Eric Small was the first one who wrote Yoga for MS, the book. Lauren Fishman has several books out on osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, Yoga for pain is out there. It's all, so we were able to put together a package that works for where our interests are and what our students need. Yeah.
That's fabulous. So we know that yoga can help a student feel balanced, become more empowered, and not feel so vulnerable out in everyday life, and more confidence. How have you seen that with working with perhaps the older generation of the public? And Lynn, you can
I always tell the story of this wonderful woman who walked into one of our gentle yoga classes at Karma. She was recently widowed, was 80 years old, and she kind of walked in like, like this, looking around, a little fearful. She, in 4 years, attended classes regularly, and then was able to go from a plank, which is an upper push-up position, into a down dog, which is bringing your hips up, your hands on the ground, your feet on the ground, that's downward facing dog, and then go back to plank at 84 years old.
Oh my goodness.
So cool.
And not only did it wasn't amazing physically, what it did for her self-esteem, and for her belief in herself and her ability to move on in her life.
Right, for somebody just widowed, it gives them so much empowerment to keep going, because that's a very difficult life transition.
Right. Definitely.
So you do teach a lot of chair yoga, because that helps a lot of clients that are not as mobile.
Correct.
So how have you seen the chair yoga develop over the years, and with your training and your study? Can you give us a little bit about how that works? Chair
Well,
yoga?
oftentimes people feel that they're impaired and they can't do anything. Yoga is for everybody, and as Mindy said, we work with people also with paraplegia and quadriplegia, so there's no reason why everybody cannot do yoga. You can sit in a chair and move your arms. You can take a strap and you can stretch. And the people with whom I've worked say it's done incredible things for them. And you also help them to work on strengthening, doing things with their feet and their legs that they would normally not think that they could do. And then you see this tremendous shift and how comfortable, again, they feel in their bodies. We might even be able to get them then, when they feel more comfortable, to stand and use the chair for balance. And then the next stage is every once in a while, to have them learn how to use the chair to get down on the floor and get up in a supervised environment, so they know that somebody's there to help them. I always say, if you have the ability to get down on the floor and get up, you should do so every day.
I remember you always saying that.
Yeah. Because you don't want to lose that ability and not be so fearful if you do fall. You've been there before.
Such empowerment. It's great.
Yeah.
Then you can play with the grandchildren.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly. That's what people often say. Now I can get down on the floor and play with my grandchildren.
And that is one of the biggest fears, getting up and down.
Right. Well, my parents are in their 80s, and either one of them were very physically active. So when I go to visit them, I see it. I really see their struggle. They can't get down. There's no way they actually, either one could get down on the floor and get back up by themselves. So I always think of Lynn, that's her mantra, in her classes, her clients to be able to get down and get back up, and if they were by themselves. So I can see the benefits of that in all your teaching. And then Mindy, you do a lot of chair work with your MS classes, so I'd love you to talk for a while about MS, using the chair, and what you've noticed in your classes.
So in the class, we often start in the chair with a meditation or a visualization, breathing exercises, and then we may transition to poses in the chair. What people are always amazed by is it's not that easy. And some people who can even stand, when they'll be like, let's sit, and you can really feel your warrior and open up your hips. So you can sometimes get even more into a pose in a chair.
Oh, interesting.
You can get a really great stretch in so many different ways.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then tell me a little bit, well, before I move on to community, because these two classes, for instance, Gentle Karma, Chair Yoga, MS, really develop a lot of community. I just wanted to touch base on, how about chair yoga in corporate settings. I often will go speak at corporate settings where everybody's in chairs or even at tables having a luncheon, and I can still have them do yoga because there's a chair available, and there's a lot that we can do on the chair. So even for a person that's not maybe aging or recovering from an illness or an injury, chair yoga is fantastic as well.
Yeah. There's so much back pain out there
Yeah.
because we weren't really meant to sit in chairs.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
You know, I always say if we could have customized chairs where it was made just for your leg height or your, you know, just so it fit just you, it would be great. But it's not. So a really tall person in a standard chair gets uncomfortable, even in the car.
Yeah.
So now that we have these ergonomics, it helps a little bit. But we even help people figure out how to adjust, maybe putting a pillow underneath or something behind. And then often just taking that 5-minute break when you're sitting at the computer and doing a few little neck exercises or shoulder exercises just to move the body a little bit because it gets so stagnant and just hanging over yourself in the computer screen.
I helped one woman who was rather short understand that a lot of the difficulties she was going through was because when she sat in most chairs, her feet didn't touch the floor.
Right.
And so she never knew what to do, and especially in plane rides. So we came up with a system where she would take a blow-up pillow or maybe even a yoga block, even on the plane ride, to put underneath
Elevate
her
the
feet,
feet.
to bring her feet up so then her knees didn't hurt, her hips didn't hurt. So yoga is more than just going to a yoga class. Yoga is really a way of life. And with this understanding of one's body and one's differences, that learning how to adapt both in the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Well, that's better. We'll even wait on the community. Let's go into why we even have this show, why I opened Karma Yoga 10 years ago, was to teach our students how to take their yoga off the mat and into their life. And that's what's been so exciting with this staff that has come together. We've been together so many years. It's a family. It's beautiful, the work that we like to do together. And so what are you teaching, like you just said, in your classes and to your clients about living their yoga off the mat? How are you helping them take it further? Either one.
Either. Well, I'll often say when we're doing a certain yoga pose and I will have them mimic taking the students taking something out of the trunk of a car. Okay, and this is how you put your feet. This is what the legs should be doing. You know, this is how you engage your core. We take the item out of the trunk. Okay, we bring it in close to the body, and then we stand up. In terms of the breathing practices, you know, you've gone to the doctor, you're nervous. You're in an emergency, you're nervous.
You're in an MRI, you're nervous.
Yes.
You know.
This is such good stuff.
Right. So to take this breath work and use it throughout your life, that it doesn't change the circumstances, doesn't change the fact that you're in emergency or in the MRI, but it can have an effect on how you handle it and live through it.
You know, even standing in the kitchen, you know, you're standing a long time, you've got the countertop, you can move back, do an L pose, which is a variation on down dog. You know, sometimes we tell them just find a little wall space, practice balance if you're feeling a little off or you need to settle your mind and focus.
This is a huge support to be able to give to your students these tips when they leave the room, because we feel that yoga is so much more than the 1-hour class. It's a lifestyle, and how they can feel better, radiant, glowing, happy, joyous all the time is what we're doing. You know, we're offering this to our students to see that there is another way to live. And with the MS patients, I have just really enjoyed watching them come in over the years and watching the community that grows between them. And I know that, for instance, some of them were not even walking couldn't even walk from their car to the door, and now they are. So can you talk a little bit about how that's empowering them outside of the yoga studio? How has it changed their condition?
Right. So often they're at doctor's appointments. It might be a weekly appointment. They're frequent. So, and they're getting poked at. But with yoga, they get to decide what they're going to do. They are empowered. It's something they get to do to help themselves feel better. And often our students say they walk better, they move better after class. It is not a cure, but we say use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm.
They build some strength, they try to maintain their strength. They wake up in the middle of the night and they have spasms. So I say, you know, keep a tie by the bed. And then we call it the tie exercise. So they can do that, and then often they can go back to sleep and the spasms subside.
So have you also seen increase in like circulation in their body? What like physical things have you seen shift for them?
You know, it's amazing that you're concentrating on vision when you say that scene, because I've had students come in and their feet are purple.
Right.
They're red or they're purple. And so one of the most therapeutic poses is feet up the wall. And they can spend, like, we have them build up, maybe just a few minutes and up to maybe 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that relaxes the nervous system. The heart even gets a chance to rest. And you can literally see the legs and the feet changing color. Back to pink, back to healthy, normal circulation.
And have many of the students remarked on like, this has never happened until I came to yoga, or things like that?
They start to realize, wow, there is things I can do out there to help myself.
So that's the huge empowerment piece. It's also shifting all of our students, whether they're old, young, recovering, healthy, that we're empowering them, that they don't have to fall into the woe is me, or, you know, they can ride the waves of life, which is what we're always talking about.
Right, often pain can take over.
Right.
So learning like a yoga nidra or visualization, a type of resting exercise that they can even do themselves or listen to a tape and realize, wow, I'm not my pain. I'm not my pain.
There we go. So these are all the technologies that I love that Karma is offering to our students. We're offering them so many technologies on how to use things outside of the yoga room. So it may be mantra music, sacred music. It could be visualizations or meditations. It's not just the yoga poses anymore. I often say this is not your mother's yoga. We have so many experienced teachers with really a lot of depth on the different technologies. And you've already mentioned many of them, which is great.
You know, we're really looking at the whole individual. A big theme or topic that comes up in our classes is the Ayurveda, or the ancient Indian practice of medicine. And really it's about diet and food and lifestyle. And people love to talk about food.
Yeah.
So they almost invariably,
Perfect.
before we even start class, they're talking about, you know, different ways, different things they might eat that help them, or how they approach their diet. Yeah.
So let's talk about the aspect of community, because I've watched over the years how Gentle Karma has grown. And remember, they were having holiday potlucks together, and MS is a really community in those classes as well. What have you noticed with your Gentle students? Like, they even watch each other if they're missing class, or
Definitely.
Yeah.
They're very, very supportive of each other and look after each other. They're very interested. And if somebody hasn't been there for a week or two, they always want to know where the person is. Are they okay? Oftentimes somebody is maybe had surgery, we sign a card and we send it. But it really is a connection, and they find a lot of commonalities. So right now we have a number of knitters who are coming to Gentle Karma, and people who knit have a lot of the same, you know, type of issues. So not only do they get to talk with each other, then we can address that in class. Musicians, we have a number of musicians at Karma, and they have issues, you know, so that they then find things.
repetitive use injuries.
Exactly, exactly. But everybody is very just concerned. A lot of times people find old friends they haven't seen in a while, and they meet new friends as well. So there's a lot of support.
And you've created quite a community with your classes as well.
Right. Our classes are maximum 8 to 10 people. So if somebody's missing, where are they? What's wrong with them? How come they're not here? I can't do it without them. Where are they? There's an accountability. So I even ask people to just let us know so we can report in. And they meet outside of class as well, which is really
It's
nice.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, time is speeding away from us, and I do want to talk about the healing aspects of yoga as far as the healthy population as well, and not always older. So let's talk about athletes. You've done a lot of work with athletes, Lynn.
Yes, it's just amazing. I love it. I've worked for many years with the Groves, Birmingham Groves High School football team. And what we have found is through a regular practice of yoga, there's far less injuries on the team. What I say to athletes is what doesn't bend breaks. And if you only use strength training and not flexibility training, you're much more prone to injury. So when there's a regular yoga practice, they'll find that even when they're hit in a tackle, what I've taught them how to do is to roll with the punches, okay, so that they don't tense up as much. By using the breath work and focusing on the breath, it helps an athlete stay in the moment of play.
Yep.
Okay, not to think about the play that was or the play that's coming, but just be very aware in the moment, which is what we teach in yoga. So, and it's a kind of, it works together because when you work together as a team, that again is another community. I've also worked with the Wayne State University swim team. And in particular, those repetitive motions. Again, whatever the stroke is, they use the same thing over and over again. So what you have to do is balance. So whatever you do repetitively in one direction, you need to strengthen in the other direction. And again, that helps them avoid injury. The breath work that we use in yoga, okay, which is pretty much in and out through the nose, really helps increase lung capacity. And so when professional athletes and Olympic athletes really use this breath, they're finding they have much greater endurance, which is what I have done with the teams I've worked with as well.
Oh. And did you work with a hockey team at one time too?
Yes, with the Cranbrook hockey team. Yes.
Lucky, lucky. Yeah. I always enjoyed watching Lynn on the football fields at Groves High School games because I knew what great help she was giving them. So. All right, well, we're just about out of time, and I just want to thank you so much for coming. And I'd like to close with an inspiration of the day to get you on your way. One of the ones that I love so much is when we open the heart opens our life. When the heart is open, the life opens. So keep that in mind today. And I'd like to thank my guests again, Lynn and Mindy. And if you'd liked what you see here, learn more at karma-yoga.net. Thank you so much for joining us.